Okay, welcome in one and all. I'm now going to review all of Sunday's and Monday's action of the NHL season. So there are only two games on tap on Sunday. The first match took place in Chicago, where we had the host Blackhawks taking on the New Jersey Devils. The Devils would get a 4-2 victory in this contest. Taylor Hall would kick things off in the first in favor for the Blackhawks, playing against one of his former teams. Just under 2 minutes into that frame, he would get an even strength goal from Tyler Johnson and Kaiser. Mercer would then tie things up for the Devils. Just under 7 minutes to go in that period, a power play goal, assisted by Holla and Dougie Hamilton. Willman would get his first goal of the season for the Devils to increase the lead to 2-1. There were no assists on his goal, and that happened with just over 5 minutes remaining in the first period. There were no goals to report in the second, so it was still 2-1 heading into the third and final frame. Curtis Lazar would then increase the lead to 3-1 in favor of the Devils, about 4.5 minutes into that frame, assisted by Marino. Ryan Donato would then decrease the lead to 3-2 for the Blackhawks, an even strength goal from Athanasiou and Dickinson. And then Mike McLeod would score. Ultimately, the game was over, just about a second left, and he would get an empty net goal. So 4-2 would be the final score. With the victory, the Devils have now improved to 7-3-1, and with the loss, the Blackhawks are now sitting at 4-7-0. The other game on tap on Sunday took place in Anaheim, where we had an upset, where the host Anaheim Ducks, they took on the Vegas Golden Knights. So now the teams are displayed. 4-2 would be the final score from Anaheim. This would actually be Vegas' first regulation loss on the season, and that's pretty good considering they're 13 games into the season. It took this long for someone to defeat them in regulation time. Ivan Barbashev would kick things off for the Golden Knights in the first, just about 9 minutes into that period. An even strength goal from Jack Eichel. It was 1-0 after 1. Eichel would then double up the lead with just over 6 minutes remaining in that period. Even strength goal from Theodore and McNabb. So it was 2-0 for the Vegas after 2. So after 2, you were thinking, here comes another victory for the Golden Knights, and then the onslaught and the comeback would start in the third on a power play goal from Adam Henrique and Cam Fowler and Frank Paterno would be the assist on that goal. Happened about 1 minute and 40 seconds into that frame. Sam Carrick would then tie things up just over halfway through that period, assisted by Mintyukov. McTavish would then give the Ducks the first lead of the game with just under 4 minutes to go in that frame, assisted by Vatarno and Labushkin. And then Carrick would then ice the game with about 1 minute and 9 seconds remaining, an even strength goal from Terry and Cam Fowler. So 4-2 was the final score. With that victory, the Ducks have now improved to 7-4-0. And as I mentioned prior, this is the first regulation loss for the Golden Knights, who are having a terrific start to the season. They are at 11-1-1. Now we'll take a look at Monday night's schedule. And there are only 4 games on tap for Monday. So now I'll just pull up the teams that played. So just bear with me. So the first match takes place in Florida, where we have the Florida Panthers, and they were playing host to the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Panthers would get this victory, and this one took until overtime to decide a winner. So ultimately, both teams were guaranteed to secure at least 1 point, and obviously the Panthers got the game-winning goal in overtime, so they would get the second point, which is very crucial at any part of your season. So Ryan Lomberg would kick things off just over 2 minutes into that first, an even strength goal from Lawrence and Mahura. Forsling would then double up the lead to 2-0, an even strength goal 50 seconds after that happened from Reinhardt and Ekman Larson. Barkov would then increase the lead to 3-0, an even strength goal from Reinhardt and McCullough. And then Sean Corelli would finally get the Blue Jackets on the board with just over 4 minutes remaining in that period, assisted by Gudbranson and Danforth. And then Boone Jenner, the captain, would score with about a minute and 9 seconds left to go in the first. An even strength goal from Roslovic and Gudbranson. So it's 3-2 for the Panthers heading into the second period. The lone goal in the second came on a power play from Marchenko, assisted by Perovov and Tessier. So it was all tied up at 3 heading into the third period. Speaking of Texier, he would then increase the lead. He would give the Columbus Blue Jackets the first lead of the game, 4-3, with about 7.5 minutes remaining. An even strength goal from Peak and Sillinger, and then Nick Cousins would score with just under a minute to go to tie things up at 4. Connor Verhaeghe would be the overtime hero in this matchup, but a minute and a half into overtime, assisted by Lundell and Matthew Tkachuk. With the victory, the Panthers are now sitting at 6-4-1, and with the overtime loss, the Blue Jackets are now sitting at 4-5-3. Excuse me. The next matchup takes place in Toronto, where we have the host Toronto Maple Leafs, and they took on a team they're very familiar with, to say the least, in the Tampa Bay Lightning. Okay, I'm just going to pull up the goal scoring summary. This was a wild game, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. It looked like one team was going to absolutely dominate, and then big surprise, the other team came back to tie it up to force an overtime. So it took until overtime to decide a winner in this matchup. So Matthew Knies would kick things off in the first for the Leafs, assisted by Marner and Matthews. That happened roughly 3.5 minutes into that first. Victor Hedman would then score to tie things up for the Lightning, an even strength goal from Kucherov and point, and that happened with just over 4 minutes into that period. Kucherov would then get his first of 2 goals in this game, an even strength goal from Hagel and Sergachev. That happened roughly 6 minutes into the frame, and then he would get his second goal on a power play with just under 9 minutes to go, assisted by Hedman and Stamkos. And then Braden Point would then increase the lead to 4-1 on a power play goal, just under 5 minutes remaining to go in that first, assisted by Kucherov and Hedman. So it's 4-1 for the Lightning after 1. But again, this is a 60-minute game, not a 20-minute game. So, big surprise, Austin Matthews would then kick things off for the Leafs, or decrease the lead to 4-2 at this point, just over 2 minutes into that second, assisted by Brody and Marner. And then Matthews again, who else, would then decrease the lead to 4-3, just under 6 minutes into that second, assisted by Knies and Marner. So it's 4-3 for the Lightning heading into the third period. Cal Yarncroke would then tie things up roughly 2 minutes into that period. An even strength goal from Robertson and Domi. Mitch Marner would then increase the lead 8 seconds after that to 5-4, assisted by Knies and Morgan Riley. Brandon Hagel would score with about 2.5 minutes to tie things up for the Lightning, assisted by DeHaan and Chernik. And then in overtime, Carl Yarncroke would get the game-winning goal for the Leafs 46 seconds into that period, assisted by Riley and Nylander. So 6-5 was the final score from Toronto. It just goes to show you could have a 2, 3, 4 goal lead against this Leaf squad, and they can still somehow tie it up and obviously force it overtime. So there's no safe lead anymore, in my opinion. With the victory, the Leafs are now improved to 6-4-2 on the season, and even though the Lightning lost, they're still ahead of the Leafs in the standings, sitting at 5-3-4. If only they had Vasilevsky in net, maybe things would be a little different. All right, so there's 2 other games on tap for Monday's schedule. The first one takes place in Texas, where we have the host Dallas Stars, and they were playing against probably one of the hottest teams in the East in the Boston Bruins. So you should see the team's logos on the screen. Now take a look at the goal scoring summary. So the Bruins would get the victory in this one. 3-2 would be the final score. Beecher would kick things off for the Bruins about 10 minutes into that first period, getting his first goal of the season, assisted by Lindholm. M. Lohrei would then increase the lead for the Bruins 2-0, just under 6 minutes remaining in that period, assisted by Heinen and Mitchell. There were no goals to report in the second. It took all the way to the third for us to get some more goal scoring. Wyatt Johnson would finally get the Dallas Stars on the board roughly 5 minutes into that period. And even during goal from Lindell and Heiskanen. Brad Marchand, the captain, would get a power play goal about halfway through that frame, assisted by Van Riemsdyk and Pasternak. Joe Pavelski would then decrease the lead to 3-2 with about 30 seconds to go, but obviously it was too late at that point. Robertson and Heiskanen would assist on Pavelski's goal as well. So despite the loss, the Stars are still pretty decent. 7-3-1 are where they're at, while the Bruins, like I said, are red hot, sitting at 10-1-1, which is absolutely absurd in my mind. And the last game takes place in BC, where we have the Vancouver Canucks, and they're playing host to the Edmonton Oilers. So I don't think anyone would have guessed that, at the 11-12 game mark, that these teams would have the respected records that they do. But this is where fate has landed, as the Canucks are off to an amazing start, while the Oilers are off to probably one of their worst starts in franchise history. The final in this one was 6-2 in favor of the Canucks. Take a look at the goal scoring summary. So no surprise here, the Oilers always seem to strike first, but then they always tend to shoot themselves in the foot, if I'm going to be blunt about this. And Matthias Ekholm will kick things off about 6 minutes and 40 seconds into the first. A power play goal from Sam Gagner and Evander Kane. Then Quinn Hughes would tie things up 11 and a half minutes into that frame, assisted by Kuzmenko and Hronek. Pius Suter would then score, I want to say just about 2 minutes after Hughes tied it up to give the Canucks a 2-1 lead, an even strength goal from Joshua and Cole. And then Brock Besser would get a power play goal with about 5 minutes to go in that period, assisted by JT Miller and Quinn Hughes. So it's 3-1 after the first. Draisaitl would then get on the board for the Oilers in the second, about 7 minutes and 40 seconds into that frame, and an even strength goal from Vogel. And just over 3 minutes after that, Noel Hoglander, oh my God. Geez, I feel like I'm having a stroke. Hoglander, however you pronounce his name, would then increase the lead to 4-2, assisted by Sam Lafferty. So it's 4-2 heading into the third period. In the third, JT Miller would then get a power play goal for the Canucks, increasing the lead to 5-2, assisted by Quinn Hughes and Hronek. That happened roughly 8 minutes to go, so 8 minutes into the frame. And then with just under a minute to go, the game was already over at that point, but Brock Besser would get a power play goal for the Canucks, increasing the lead to 6-2, assisted by Pettersson and Quinn Hughes. So 6-2 was the final score from Vancouver. With the victory, the Canucks are now sitting at 9-2-1, and with the loss, the Oilers are at 2-8-1. Again, not the start that I believe any Oilers fan or the players themselves thought that they would be in, but unfortunately, this is the hand that fate has dealt them. As always, if you're new to this channel and you like this type of content, I attempt to do videos on the daily. Please feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative at the same time. And as always, take care.